Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, senior leaders. It's Alicia Cowan. Welcome to episode number 43 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. It is the thick of summer. We are about to head into July 4th weekend as I'm recording this. However, when this goes live, we will be well past the holiday. So happy belated 4th of July. It is absolutely one of my favorite holidays. And I think I mentioned in the last podcast, we're about to have some fun with a friend that is coming in from out of town to visit us. And so we're going to do lots of fun things in the Tampa area for the 4th of July weekend. So hope you had a great holiday. What we're going to talk about today is this concept of mentoring as a senior leader and helping to develop some of the people that are on your team or perhaps within your organization that are managing for potentially maybe early on in their career or even for the very first time. And why I want to give you this podcast is because I talk to so many of your team members, not you specifically, but clients in general. And I talk to them at that level where they're coming into leadership roles for the first time, and perhaps they've, again, had a direct report for the first time, or maybe they're just newer in their management career and they haven't led people for a really long time. So I run into some of the very similar and same struggles. And so I want to talk to you as a senior leader because I think sometimes as senior leaders, we're far removed from being new managers. We have been leading people for a really long time, and we forget some of the newer manager struggles that they may be faced with. And we sometimes forget the power that we have and influence that we have in their lives and careers by helping to support them through some of their first time management challenges. You know, I myself, I've been managing people for over 24 years now. And so it's been a minute since I've been a new manager. And so sometimes I forget some of the first time manager struggles. But luckily, as my view as a coach, I have some of those examples to share with you. So what we're going to talk through is about 6 areas that you could potentially help with these first time leaders work through. And again, this might be in a direct report structure. This might be in a mentorship capacity, or maybe you're a sponsor for one of these leaders. And just these tips could help you as you get their perspective and you think through where they're at in their career. So you might be thinking, what could I possibly help them with? And that's what we'll get to on this list. And you might be feeling a little bit maybe unsure about some of the things that they're struggling with. And so while this is not an all-inclusive list, this is definitely more thematic from the coaching experience that I've had. I don't think it ever hurts to ask what challenges they may be facing and what they're struggling with. Again, sometimes as a senior leader, you might not always get the most honest answer, just because sometimes it's hard for people to be vulnerable in that situation and to say, honestly, talk about something that they're not good at to a senior leader. So that's why I wanted to give you this little insider information, just because, again, while I think it's great to be curious and I think it's helpful to ask, sometimes bold leaders that feel comfortable managing up will ask for your help. But a lot of times people might be a little bit more intimidated and a little bit more fearful to be fully vulnerable. So that's why I'm giving you this list. So let's dive in. So first-time managers, here's some things they need. I think one of the first things that I've seen that first-time managers or early career managers might need is to help find and define their own leadership style. I did a podcast on this and how to discover leadership style. But as a senior leader, you have a unique perspective to be able to share your own stories and how you developed your own style and really what leadership style even really looks like. And so it's important for these leaders early on in their leadership journey to start to develop a North Star. What I find and what I've seen is a lot of managers just start managing. They get the title, they get the responsibility, and they just start going at it. And they start leading, and they don't really think intentionally about who they want to be in this leadership role and how they want to show up. They might pull from examples that they've seen in previous leaders or previous managers, or, again, previous mentors that they've had. So they've got a long laundry list of typically what they don't want to do in a management position, and maybe have a little bit of an idea of things that they want to emulate or people that they want to follow. But rarely have they really truly sat down and thought about how to define their own leadership style for themselves. And so a great exercise would be to talk about your own leadership style and ask what their leadership style is going to be and how they want to define it, and help them understand it's okay to experiment with it. It's okay to try different styles out, to experiment with different ways of leading and learn from that experiment. Okay, so that's number one, leadership style. Number two, it's really important for managers to know what is expected of them as managers and what is expected of them managing their team as the leader of that team. So often I come across managers that don't necessarily even know what their own job description looks like. They don't know what the mission and vision of their team is. They don't know how their role and their team's role really add value to the organization. And so you as a senior leader have the opportunity to give them this insight. So important that as a manager, they critically understand, like, what is the value that this team and themselves as a manager provides back to the company. It's really helpful if you can even share what are some of the strategic guidance and vision that you have for them and for the organization, so that they can begin to comprehend that and then understand it, and then start to create their own team's vision and mission that will nest right into that overall company vision. But to really bring them in the fold and help them understand expectations, what is really expected of that team, and to have crystal clear clarity in it so that they understand how their success is going to be measured. Okay. I know it sounds simplistic, but if you go out there and, again, ask some of these managers, it's important that they can articulate it in a way that is aligned with you and aligned with the team. So a lot of ways, senior leaders sometimes make assumptions. The managers and leaders know this and that they know how to do it. But I think they really could use some mentorship in this way. Okay. All right. That's number two. So number three, another critical skill that after they understand their leadership style and what the company's mission vision is, then really to understand how to build amazing, strong relationships with the team. To me, after those first two, this is really foundational. I see this sometimes skipped and sometimes not necessarily head in the right direction. But I think you can mentor your team to understand how to build great professional working relationships. Sometimes I can see this go awry. Sometimes in the beginning, people as managers want to be liked. And so sometimes they form too close of relationships and they go into that realm of becoming too much of like family-like or friend-like. And it really starts to cross that professional line and starts to erode the leadership capability there. And at other times, people keep their team at like an arm's length distance, and they don't build enough of a personal relationship and enough of a professional personal relationship with the team. So they really build up walls between them and the team. And so there is this right balance to strike. Again, there's a professional working relationship that needs to be struck between the direct reports and a leader. And a lot of times as mentors, I think, again, we assume that some of this work is being done and that they know how to navigate it. And at times it's really helpful to help them work through building the foundational relationship. Again, this is it, because without the trust and support of the team, the work can't be done, right? And it won't be done with longevity. Again, you could be doing a fear-based relationship, but that will only get short-term results versus long-term results. through having a great relationship. And like I said, I think as senior leaders, we've seen a lot in our careers. So helping them understand how to navigate that professional relationship is such a great help. All right, so that's number 3. Now let's go on to number 4. The next thing that I think you can really help them out with is to help them understand how to navigate and establish regular forms of amazing, great communication. And what that can look like is a practice of having really effective, powerful one-on-one meetings with their direct reports. Oftentimes, I think this is a great practice that people can have, is to have a great, powerful one-on-one. And so much magic can happen between a direct report and an employee. It's a place where priorities can get established, feedback can be given, support, guidance, advice, problem solving, all that can happen in a one-on-one. And sometimes I hear that one-on-ones just aren't even happening at all. And so helping people establish a great one-on-one cadence, whatever that may look like, can be really powerful. And the next piece is to help them establish norms of team communication to include a team meeting and how to lead a really great, effective team meeting. Again, I know this sounds so basic and baseline, and somewhat it is. But again, as senior leaders, we are just accustomed to it. We're used to leading meetings and leading one-on-ones, and we just take it for granted. But what happens out there is sometimes the team meetings aren't as effective as we think they are. And so to help them establish some talking points, some agendas, some rhythms, and some cadence to what that team meeting and one-on-one communication look like can be really powerful. And again, I think there's other norms that sometimes we take for granted. So again, like talking about when it's appropriate to use Teams or Slack, or when to use the phone or texting or versus email. All of those kind of assumptions that we all make sometimes can really trip up first-time managers about when to use what and when. Okay. And so as basic as it seems, as a senior leader, again, you don't have to get as into the weeds, but if you are mentoring someone and they're really struggling with maybe communicating and leading the team, this can be a way to dig in, to talk and ask questions about how they are set up to communicate with the team, one-on-one or in team meetings, and all the forms of communication they're using. Okay, so that's number 4. All right, number 5 is we're going to get a little bit more into the work that needs to get done here. Number 5 is the ability to develop the team and develop themselves. So this is a big one. As senior leaders, we, in our careers, have developed lots of leaders, and new managers at times can struggle with this. So a lot of the support they need is to understand how to develop direct reports. And I think truly develop, it means giving them training, giving them the tools, giving them sometimes exposure, giving them just the opportunity to do the work, to practice the work, and learn from sometimes missteps in doing the work. In order to really properly develop the team, they also need the time and the resources to do that. So whether they're great at developing the team or not, sometimes they get tripped up on that. Sometimes they just don't have the time and the resources. And as a senior leader, you can help them start to problem solve and understand how to remove some roadblocks and obstacles to get to the point where they're really developing the team well. And I truly mean development in the sense of developing the skill sets, not just developing people in order to move up to the next level. Again, that can be the result of great development, but not always the ultimate end game. The goal there is to develop them, to develop the skills in order to do their work really well. So that's number 5. Number 6, this is really tactical. Okay. So just the ability to coach and train these new managers on how to drive work results. And that's the ultimate reason why we're here, right? To drive results for the team and the organizations. And so what really this involves is a lot of little subtopics that, again, these new managers need some coaching on. One can be decision-making. So a lot of times when you're trying to drive results, you need to figure out what results need to be driven and how. And so they struggle sometimes with decision-making and how to divide up the work and how to decide what to prioritize and generally what direction to go in. So that's the first step. 2, then to delegate. Man, I talk to so many managers out there that struggle with this piece of actually letting go of the work, properly delegating the work, and making sure the work gets done through that delegation process. So you can really step in and help them know when to delegate, when not to delegate, and how to delegate properly. Then, once we get to the point where we've delegated work, they've got to come back and measure the performance. They got to take a look at how the results stacked up against what was expected, and then in turn, deliver the feedback and hold the associates accountable for a job well done, or if they missed the mark, why and how. So the lot under driving results, I think there's a lot of subcategories, of course, that you could talk about. And that one, again, they need tons of your support there. You have so much experience in getting to done and knowing how to get work done. And a lot of it is so nuanced. So they definitely could use your support and mentorship there. Okay. So those are a couple of the areas that I see the most. Again, 6 areas: defining the leadership style, getting to know what is expected of them as leaders and managers, how to build relationships, how to establish regular, clear forms of communication, how to develop the team, develop themselves, and how to drive results. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, totally fine. I also do this work with your leaders. So if you need some support in helping to get these managers to the next level. Again, a lot of these managers are very well intended. They're very talented. They just maybe haven't done this work before. That's okay, right? I do this work with leaders all the time and help them in leading their teams. And if you need help with this and have a large team and don't necessarily have all the time to do it yourself, I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching for managers that have been leading for years and managers that have just taken on management for the first time. And sometimes it's managers that just assumed a new, larger team with new responsibilities that are unique to them. So happy to help with any of that. And hopefully this sparked you to think about some of those people on your team and leaders that might need some of your support and how you could potentially help them, because that's the power of being a leader. You can help them out and guide them in the right way in their lives and their careers. So thank you so much for listening. So grateful for your support and you tuning in. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can do so through my website. It's aliciacowancoaching.com. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. Feel free to reach out and I'd love to hear from you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.